Hi, this is Shay Jackson with Hype Math. In today's video, we will be discussing what type of questions did my third grader have on their STAAR Math Test. Let's get started. Now, I know you may be thinking to yourself, why do I need to know that information? Which is a good question, and my response would be, knowledge is power. Having an understanding of the types of questions and math concepts that your third grader was required to learn and was assessed on will help you to encourage them or support them in their math journey. How? Well, let's say, for instance, when you get their STAAR results, you look at their STAAR math score. And in this example, it says for the performance, the student met the grade level. You're excited and you're saying, great, they did well. But let's take a look at that red highlighted box for where it says category and answered correctly. If you look at category 1 and category 4, you'll notice that the student scored 0 of 4 for numerical representations and relationships and 0 of 7 for data analysis and personal financial literacy. So even though this student met the grade level, it's obvious that there are some math concepts they're struggling in. And if those aren't addressed as soon as possible, once your third grader going to the fourth grade enters math and there hasn't been any reinforcement or enrichment in those math concepts they didn't understand, they will continue to struggle. Because as you know, as you grow up grade levels, math becomes more challenging, especially if there's some concepts you don't have a solid foundation in. The third grade STAAR Math Test was separated into 4 categories. They are numerical representations and relationships, geometry and measurement, computations and algebraic relationships, data analysis, and personal financial literacy. So just to give you an overview, and we talked a little bit more about this on another video that was entitled Understanding My Third Graders STAAR Math Results, and that link will be in the description box. But the STAAR test is based on TEKS, which stands for Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And in layman's term, it just means the math concept and skills that the state of Texas believes that your third grader should learn in order to be successful in that grade level and also for the upcoming year. TEKS are divided into 2 questions, readiness and supporting. Let's take a look at the difference. So for readiness questions, these are questions that are essential for success in the current grade level as well as for getting prepared for 4th grade. They support college and career readiness, and also they address broad and deep concepts, skills, and ideas. On the other hand, supporting questions are introduced and can be reinforced in the current grade, but they will also be re-emphasized in subsequent years. They play a role in preparing the student for that grade. However, they're not the central role. The readiness questions are. And lastly, they address more narrowly defined ideas. So let's dig a little deeper into the different categories and look at some sample questions. For numerical representations and relationships, the chart shows the readiness and supporting standards. Remember, readiness standards are the central core math concepts that students learn, and the supporting standards are kind of like the supporting standards. And again, they will be re-emphasized in subsequent years. So TEK 3.2a is a readiness standard, and this standard says compose and decompose numbers up to 100,000 as a sum of so many 10,000s, so many thousands, so many hundreds, so many tens, and so many ones using objects, pictorial models, and numbers, including expanded notation as appropriate. And in our question, it says, which expression represents the number 867? This sample question that we have, this question does align with this TEK. So this is a type of question that your third grader was required to answer on their STAAR Math Test. Let's take a look at another readiness question. For TEK 3.3H, and let's go back to our chart right quick, and we see that for the readiness standards, 3.3H is the last TEK. It says compare two fractions having the same numerator or denominator in problems by reasoning about their sizes and justifying the conclusion using symbols, words, objects, and pictorial models. So in our question, it says Bailey and Dylan each had pies that were the same size. Bailey ate 1/3 of his pie. Dylan ate 1/4 of his pie, or 1/4. Which statement is true? So based on this information, your student had to look at the different answer choices to reason which was the correct answer. Let's look at some supporting questions. TEK 3.3a, represent fractions greater than 0 and less than or equal to 1 with denominators of 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8 using concrete objects and pictorial models, including strip diagrams and number lines. So in our sample question, it says Anissa shaded part of the figure shown below, and the student had to choose what was the shaded part. They had to answer the question of what the shaded part was. And if you notice for the denominator, it's the answers have 6 or 8, again aligning with the TEK 3.3a. Let's look at another supporting standard for the numerical representations and relationships category. TEK 3.2b says, describe the mathematical relationships found in the base 10 place value system through the 100,000th place. Our question says, what is the relationship between the thousandths place and the hundredths place in the number shown? And the number shown is 971,111. And again, based on the answer choices, the student had to read and figure out what is the correct answer for this problem. Let's move on to computations and algebraic relationships. Again, here is the chart with both readiness and supporting standards. And don't worry, if you need a copy of this, even though you may not understand everything, it's okay. Again, it's about just having the information so that you can be empowered to see how you can help your student if there are math concepts or areas they may need help in. This will be our freebie, and a link to the readiness and supporting standards will be in the description box. Let's look at some sample questions. You're doing great. For this readiness standard is TEK 3.2a. Solve one-step and two-step problems involving multiplication and division within 100 using strategies based on objects, pictorial models, including arrays, area models, and equal groups, properties of operations, or recall of facts. So in this sample question, it says there are 2 different vegetables in the garden. There are 5 rows that have 16 carrot plants in each row. There are 72 spinach plants. How many vegetable plants are there in the garden? And as you see, and this is a 3rd grade question, right? And if you can think about when you were in 3rd grade and the kind of problems that you were solving, we mostly had to do is just calculate and find the answer. Now students have to think a little bit more, find out what information they need, once they have that information, how do they use it to solve the problem? So again, it's not, even though it's not like the third grade math we learned, it's what's expected and required of the student. And the best thing to do is support them, is to understand, if they truly understand and comprehend the math concepts, and if not, find tools, resources, great online tutoring platforms like Hype Math, shameless plug, to help your student, again, have a strong foundation so that they'll be prepared for the fourth grade. Because it's not good for them to struggle year after year, and all it takes is just taking a moment to see maybe what math area or math concept they're struggling in, address it, they'll do a lot better. All right, let's look at another readiness standard. This is TEAC 3.5a. Represent 1- and 2-step problems involving addition and subtraction of whole numbers to 1,000 using pictorial models, number lines, and equations. So in this, our sample problem, Rita had 2 boxes of ribbons. She had 37 large ribbons in the first box. She had 56 small ribbons in the second box. She had 28 of the large ribbons to her sister. She gave 28 of the large ribbons to her sister. Which number sentence can be used to find the number of ribbons Rita had left in the 2 boxes? So in looking at the answers, could you guess readily what the answer would be, or what the correct answer is? Sorry about that. What the correct answer is? All right, let's look at some supporting standards. TEAC 3.4H. Determine the number of objects in each group when a set of objects is partitioned into equal shares or a set of objects is shared equally. Daria has 42 baseball gloves in her store. She will put these gloves on 7 shelves. She will put the same number of gloves on each shelf. How many gloves would Daria put on each shelf? And the student has to look at the answer choices to find out what the correct answer is. Now, one thing that I feel like is kind of maybe a trick, maybe trickery, is if you look at the picture of the baseball gloves and the student just counts, okay, let me see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 5 rows, or they choose something else as opposed to just taking a moment to think about, okay, what times 7 is equal to 42? Pretty easy problem, but again, it'll help the parent to know if if multiplication is a math concept that their student struggles in, okay? Let's look at another supporting standard. TEAC 3.5D. Determine the unknown whole number in a multiplication or division equation relating 3 whole numbers when the unknown is either a missing factor or a product. So this example says, what number goes in the box to make a true statement? Something times 5 is equal to 45. And this is like algebra, because if you just replace the box with an X, it would kind of be like an algebra problem. So yes, your 3rd grader is learning algebraic relationships. Let's move on to geometry and measurement. Here is our chart with the readiness and supporting standards. Now let's take a look at some sample problems. Hang in there with me, you're doing great. TEAC 3.68 says, classify and sort 2- and 3-dimensional figures, including cones, cylinders, spheres, triangular and rectangular prisms, and cubes based on attributes using formula geometric language. So in our problem, a figure is divided into 7 sections as shown below. Which sections are quadrilaterals? So again, your 3rd grader had to look at this problem and answer the correct question. And it's a readiness standard, which means it would show if they have college and career readiness, also if they were successful in understanding this math concept for the 3rd grade year in preparation for the 4th grade year. Another readiness standard, TEAC 3.7b, and let's take a look just to show you that it is on that chart. 3.7b is the last TEAC on the readiness side. Let's take a look at the sample problem. Felix drew the figures shown below. It shows figures, and the question says, which list shows all the figures that have a perimeter of 54 millimeters? Okay. Let's look at a supporting standard, TEAC 3.6b. Use attributes to recognize rhombuses, parallelograms, trapezoids, rectangles, and squares as examples of quadrilaterals, and draw examples of quadrilaterals that do not belong to any of these subcategories. Now, I know your eyes may be glassing over, parents. It's okay. Just giving you an example just to show you how important it is for you to understand the math concepts your 3rd grader was required to learn in order for them to be successful in their math journey, okay? Here we have a group of the figures in our sample problem, and it says which of these figures do not appear to be a rhombus, trapezoid, rectangle, or square. And then we have our answer choices. Let's look at one more supporting standard. It's TEAC 3.7d, and let's show in the chart on the supporting standard side, it's the next to the last TEAC. And the problem, it says determine when it is appropriate to use measurements of liquid volume, capacity, or weight. The sample problem says Patrick's class collected boxes of food for charity. Which unit of measurement should be used to measure the weight of the boxes of food? And it gives answers for your child to have answered correctly, okay, or to have answered, I meant. Last category, you're doing great. Data analysis and personal financial literacy. Pretty short TEACs. I think we could plow through them. We have our readiness standard and supporting standards as well. For our readiness standard, there's one, 3.8a. Summarize a data set with multiple categories using a frequency table, dot plot, pictograph, or bar graph with scaled intervals. Here in our question, we have a table, and also the answers are dot plots. Okay, so yes, data analysis is 3rd grade. Let's look at another example of the readiness standard 3.8a. Here we have a bar graph, and then in the answers we have a frequency table for the answers. The graph below shows the number of miles Lincoln rode his bike during 6 weeks, and based on that bar graph, the student has to look at the frequency table to see which one corresponds with the bar graph. Let's look at a supporting standard. Charlie emptied his piggy bank and counted $5.63 in savings. Which set of bills and coins could not be the total amount that was in Charlie's piggy bank? So, understanding bills and coins as well. The TEAC is 3.4c. Determine the value of a collection of coins and bills. We have one more example. The supporting standard is 3.9d. Explain that credit is used when wants or needs exceed the ability to pay, and that it is the borrower's responsibility to pay it back to the lender, usually with interest. Our sample problem says Miss Williams borrowed $6,000 from a bank to pay for some home repairs. She paid $7,500 back to the bank. Which of these is the most likely reason Miss Williams paid the bank more than the amount she borrowed? You made it. That was the last example. And if you made it to the end of the video, thank you. Thank you for saying yes. I will, even if I don't understand some things, or I had a fear of math, or I didn't learn that when I was in 3rd grade. You stayed until the end of the video just to get an idea and be involved in your child's math journey. For your freebie, it is the 3rd grade readiness and supporting questions and also the accompanying sample questions. Lastly, Hype Math will have a summer math enrichment program for rising 4th to 9th graders starting June 18th. There will be another video kind of outlining what the enrichment program will be about, but just to give you an idea, it's over the categories just so the categories and also the math concepts in those categories to prepare last year 3rd graders, upcoming year 4th graders, in just starting off on a great foot, good foundation for them to be successful in their 4th grade year and also be a rock star on their 4th grade math test. This is Shay Jackson with Hype Math. Talk to you later.